About you, but during the pandemic, I've written a little more light poetry than I usually do, and I don't know if it's just to cheer myself up or what, but I thought I'd start with a poem called "Zoom, Zoom, Zoom." And actually, one thing I like about Zoom is that you put the cursor up and you can see everybody's name, which is great. Maybe we should have name tags at our in-person poetry readings. I don't know. It's great to be reminded who you all are, but Zoom, Zoom, Zoom. My audio is cutting out. The chat has thrown a fit. The ring light has begun to blink. My face is barely lit. My breakout room has broken down. My screen share is a miser. The URL has gotten lost and I am none the wiser. The gallery has now become the mugshots of ex-cons or yearbook portraits come alive to haunt our dusks and dawns. We zoom, zoom, zoom both day and night the length of this pandemic. And now we're zoom, zoom zombies for the curse has gone systemic. I do not wish to see you hid among those little squares. I wish that little virus would just take us unawares. In heaven, at least, we'll recognize each other face to face. And that is some improvement on this Zoomish, hellish place. I know a bright young man who made his millions on Zoom stock. I think that he should promptly be put under key and lock. I think he should be made to stare upon the screen all day, and when he dies, stark raving mad, to send his bucks my way. I'd buy a lush green island to say the Isle of Venice free, and there among the clean bean rows, I'll let you live with me. We will have no computers there, our phones will just be dumb. The only things that fizz and zoom will be our cokes and rum. You'll live with me and be my love forever and forever. And when we kiss, I'll always scent the lilies in your hair. Oh, won't it be tremendous there? Oh, won't it just be grand? We'll banish all technology and live upon the land. But when I have to take a job that's all too far away, I'll Zoom with you and you with me. Lamentable apostasy, for Zoom is here to stay. That started when I saw a news article. The people at Zoom said, Zoom is here to stay. Who knows? The rest of the poems I read tonight will be from my latest collection, Somewhere to Follow. And I'll start with one that's set in Big Basin State Park up in the Santa Cruz Mountains. I bet some of you have been there. And around the time I was born, my father was a state park ranger there. He was hired not only because he was a high school biology teacher, but he also knew how to lead singing, which was a big part of the park experience back then, you'll recall. In fact, at Big Basin, my father said they had an amphitheater made of cut out redwood logs that seated 1,000 people. And on weekends, it would be overflowing, standing room only. So those were his glory days, leading singing at the park. And I've tried to imagine what that would have been like for him. His poem called Campfire Program. There in front of the fire circle, in your big brimmed ranger hat, you stand at ease, arms waving, hundreds of voices into song under the flashing redwood trees. On top of Old Smoky, oh, my darling, she'll be coming round the mountain. And the singers in their plaid flannel shirts, their pedal pushers, roasted marshmallows still sticky upon their fingers, all swell in time and in tune as your palm now makes invisible triangles in air. lofting the measures to the stars. This is America in the 50s, relieved to be quit of the good war and proud to have won it, and glad to have issued from their roomy canvas tents parked next to their automobiles. And look there, Ranger, your young wife from the Orange Grove is sitting on the split log bench in the front row. Your 2-year-old pulling on her sleeve. Your young wife who is tired and queasy and 4 months pregnant with me and about to come down with polio, though she does not know it, and neither do you. She is gazing at you with admiration, and you think, yes, oh, my darling, one more verse, folks, and just the women this time. Well, you'd think with a father who was a park ranger, I would have been a natural outdoorsman, but the first backpack trip I ever went on in the Sierra, age 12, was just a horror show, really. And I'm looking back and trying to recall it. And the title of the poem is 12. When I was 12, I snarled my uncle's fishing line inside his reel so badly that he had to cut it with a knife, not just snip it cleanly off, but slice the entire mess apart. This was on the meadow lip of Graveyard Lakes, a day's hike into the Silver Divide. There were other indignities as well. The mosquitoes that feasted on my rear when I dropped my drawers to do my duty. The mule that out of nowhere sprouted the biggest erection I'd ever seen. The other 2 boys who couldn't stop laughing whenever I ran to my uncle and cried, Uncle Earl, Uncle Earl. One evening, the other men asked me to fill up a cook pot in the spring. I found a little creek by camp and climbed, but could not find where it came bubbling out of the ground. So an hour later, I came back with an empty pot. I couldn't find a spring, I said. And then I learned they had only meant the creek itself. And the 2 boys laughed and laughed at me. Uncle Earl, they sang together, Uncle Earl. But that is what it means to be 12 and scared and clumsy and misinformed, with an uncle who wants to have your back but doesn't know how, because 12 is 12 and doesn't get better for a while, for a very long time, in fact. I just wanted to be in my bedroom where I could read about King Arthur and his knights who rode into the dark forest and always found clear bubbling springs and silver fountains right there where they were supposed to be, coming fresh out of the ground. Thanks all. Well, my book is divided in 4 sections, then, and then the next section is now, which it's mostly about my academic life. I have been an English professor, for better or worse, for, I don't know, 40 some years. So this is from early in my time as a teacher, and the poem is called Professional Development. My first year of college teaching, a visiting assistant professor, in my own office, or half of one, in a stately red brick edifice with a white wooden cupola looking out on the autumn hills. And I, at my desk, lavishing a freshman essay with comment after helpful comment, like so many leaves coming to rest upon the margins of each thought. That is when my mentor, the poet, looked over my shoulder and said, Son, you're putting chrome wheels on a manure spreader. I still put chrome wheels on manure spreaders. It's the best thing to do. And manure spreaders grow up to be, I don't know, jaguars. Did you know that it was when I came to Westmont 35 years ago, there was a older British woman who was retiring in our department, and she said her brother was an automaker in England, and back in the 30s asked her what they should name a new car that they'd made, and she was reading Rudyard Kipling's Jungle Book, and she said, I don't know, name it a Jaguar. And it stuck. All because of an English professor at Westmont College, a future English professor. Well, staying with the literary theme, my mother-in-law married a fellow up in Idaho. It was her third husband, who was a hunting guide for Hemingway, lived near him. And of course, I sat him down and said, well, you know, tell me about Hemingway. He's still alive. He's like 96 up there. So this is a persona poem. This is, well, the title is My Mother-in-Law's Third Husband Speaks on Request. You want to know about Hemingway? He was my neighbor out of Ketchum, not next door, but close. I used to take him hunting in winter for mountain lion. Pappy, which is what I called him, he'd sit in a snow tractor with Gary Cooper sometimes and drink his wine from Nice, France. The wine he kept in a Bota bag. I never did learn to drink from a bag. Went all over me just like that, and he would laugh, my shirt all covered with that damn stuff. He'd sit there while I took the dogs and treat a lion. Then I'd hike back through the snow and bring him out to a regular ruckus, all them pups, where he'd shoot the thing and it would drop clean to the ground. Pappy, he was big and tall. He called me Shorty. He'd lift me up and plunk me down right onto the bar stool. And he was strong. Once that tractor ran into some barbed wire and got itself all shit fouled up, he got out and cleared that wire against his chest as if it was nothing. One day, he called and said he just got back from Africa and had a lion skin for me, that I should come on over and get it. I have to bring my hay in first, is what I told him. So I brought the rest of my hay into the barn that morning, and when I got back to the kitchen, the radio said that Hemingway had shot himself, just like that. I never did go over there and talk with Mary. Never did get that lion skin. I've often wondered if it's a true story, if he was the last person Hemingway spoke to that morning, but we'll never know. The last two sections are called Near and Far. And I think I'll skip to that fourth section, Far. And when I came on, you were talking about erotic poetry, weren't you? Right? Yeah, is that coming up? Well, here's my erotic poem, I guess. I was thinking about the kind of poem you see in the Song of Solomon in the Old Testament, where different features of the beloved are compared to different things. So this is called Yosemite Love Poem. And my wife and I met on a 10-day backcountry ski trip in Yosemite years ago. So it's a special place for us, as it is for many of you, I'm sure. Yosemite Love Poem. Your breasts are like twin water wheels in the rush of the Tuolumne. Your knees are like young lodgepole pines bent under snow. Your toes are like smooth pebbles at the foot of Bridal Veil Falls. And your speech is like the curve of current at the brink. But what am I? More like the ashes underneath the old retired firefall. A squat Pacific chorus frog rack-acking from a granite crack. The bear who got his paws immersed in pancake batter in the campground. You, the shapely curve of Half Dome. I, that missing half in air. Well, I do know my way about around the backcountry, but I'm one of the most unhandy men on the planet, to my wife's chagrin. We just bought a new old home in Santa Barbara for our retirement and are fixing it up a little, and I constantly run into my limitations. But this poem is about renting a condo from some friends up in Mammoth. It's called Technical Condo. The barbecue on the balcony almost exploded at my touch, though I did get the wood stove working on the third try. One look at the directions for the remotes to the DVD, the television, the stereo, and I turned tail. And the microwave, with its panel of options, convinced me to eat my turkey cold. Even the lockbox on the door with its combination and hidden levers is enough to keep me standing outside with the stars. It is strangely beautiful out here. No instructions needed for the light to travel all this way. All right, last poem. Most of my family's up in Oregon. And this poem set in McMinnville, where a brother of mine lives. It's called Baker Creek. Maybe we can build a trail down to the creek, my brother says. So we part a curtain of ripe cherries behind the lawn, slip beneath a big leaf maple, and follow a fence through sword fern to a drop-off. I point away past massive trunks of Douglas fir, but he favors a gully of blackberry vines, head high. So in we go, submerged in a sea of light green thorns, until we are swimming a deer path across a narrow grassy shelf. We follow it past a grand fir to a root-webbed landing by a pool, dark and deep and calm as a doe. Whether a real trail can follow, we don't know. But here we are, streamside, a brace of brothers at the bottom, our boots by the water we have only seen from above. And that's getting somewhere. Thanks very much.